Philanthropy, the love of humanity, is more than mere charity. It's a profound philosophy reflecting compassion, empathy, and the desire to make a positive impact. Historically rooted in ancient traditions, it has evolved through the Enlightenment era to modern philanthropy, emphasizing strategic giving and long-term solutions. Philosophical foundations like altruism, utilitarianism, and virtue ethics guide the act of giving, while contemporary perspectives like effective altruism and corporate social responsibility shape today's philanthropic landscape. Ethical considerations ensure transparency, responsibility, and genuine motives. In a world facing complex challenges, philanthropy transcends financial support, fostering collaboration, innovation, and a virtuous cycle of generosity. It's not just about money. It's about our collective commitment to creating a better world, recognizing that every act of kindness contributes to a greater good. So this is very much a panel. I want all of our panelists to feel free to chime in when you want to say something. It can be a conversation. But let me kick things off. If we can start with Richard, how do you define philanthropy and how has your understanding evolved over time?
Fine, thanks. Appreciate that. It was an interesting lead-in to our conversation, and just responding to that could take our full hour. So philanthropy is, from my perspective, is the voluntary utilization of one's resources. And I think that in the conversation, for good, for public good, voluntary utilization of one's resources for public good. And I was happy in the introduction that you moved beyond just talking about money. That you identified that how people use various resources of their own, their time, their energy, their wisdom, matter a lot. As a matter of fact, as someone who does things around the world, the word philanthropy is very problematic in many cultures around the world, because it suggests that philanthropy to them says, oh, that's a Gates Foundation or a Ford Foundation or some super rich person. I'm not super rich. And so that there's some resistance to even using the word philanthropy, and they much prefer the word generosity, which is a word that you use. So I think that that's very important. So perhaps, so I don't take too much time now so we can have the conversation, but you asked about the evolution. So I'm a third generation in this. Although it frankly skipped a generation. But my grandfather was, by any definition, a philanthropist. But he was an old-style philanthropist. He was a noblesse oblige philanthropist. He was a giving back philanthropist, a complicated term. But at the end of the day, he gave because it made him feel good. And as I understood what he did in his time, it was wonderful. It was generous. He was in a position to do a lot of wonderful things. But he didn't really care about what the impact of his giving was. It really had a lot to do with him. He felt good, and he gave money all over the place to people it was a wonderful thing. But it was his emotional gratification that seemed to motivate him. In the current world, that's insufficient. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about philanthropy. There's nothing wrong with feeling a motivation to give back or noblesse oblige. But what we really are talking about today is, what impact do we have? What's the change that takes place because we've decided to use our voluntary resources to make a difference? And that can be very local, it can be national, it can be international, it can be organizational, but the focus on making the difference with our personal resources is the major change that's taken place in the philanthropy world, I would say, over the last generation or two.
Scott, what has been your experience? Because you identified a problem, and if I recall correctly, you started an organization that, just started with a seed in your head and has grown into something much bigger, and the impact has only continued to grow over time.
Yes, for sure. It was a real organic growth of my organization, and just born out of the seed of wanting to help a group of 20 children in Tanzania. And it's now grown to, as you said, help over 195,000 children, and we've worked in 43 countries. And that's really been a response to the desire of others to want to give back and to want to help. It was never my intention to originally to grow this large international nonprofit, but there was a need amongst donors who, while they appreciated giving to large nonprofits, they assume your money's going to do something good when you write a check to the Red Cross and large organizations. But when I started this organization 17 years ago, there wasn't a lot of immediacy and transparency that has become much more common with today's charities. And donors really want to know where their money is going and how they're helping, and they want that feeling that they're really making a difference. And so I just started offering that naturally because it was just me, and I wanted everything to be transparent. I'm like, well, where do you want me to spend this $100, or where do you want me to spend this $10,000? Do you want to spend it on the girls in Nairobi, or do you want to spend it on the kids in East LA, or how about this local hero in Cambodia? I mean, and people then started bringing me local heroes. I know this guy in India who's working with girls. I'll raise money. You let me help you. And so that's been our model of finding these local heroes around the world. And following their insights and giving opportunity to children in their communities as they see best. But then also on the donor side, listening to donors, what do you want to do? What kind of impact do you want to have? Let me help you spend your money properly. And in fact, one thing I liked in that introductory video you showed is it said philanthropy is not just about charity. And we have a big Hollywood gala every year because I'm located in LA. And at last year's gala, I just mentioned sort of offhand, I said, our partners don't need our charity. They don't want our charity, but they deserve our what did I say? Oh my gosh, now I've forgotten my own words. They deserve our solidarity. And that really struck a chord with our donors and the people in the audience. And they came up to me and really said, that line about how it's not about charity, it's really about they deserve our solidarity. It really tweaked their way of thinking about how they were relating to giving back and what philanthropy meant to them. And I think that's becoming a powerful theme in giving, especially maybe among Amar, among your generation. Who really want to feel in solidarity with these people around the world and to try to level the playing field a little bit and alleviate some suffering.
Amar, I want to make sure that I'm saying your name correctly. So please make sure. Tell me how to pronounce your name so I don't get it wrong.
You got it right just when you said it. It's pronounced Amar, just like Amar without the H.
Okay, thank you. You've been listening a lot as you put together this giving platform for corporations and employees to use. In that listening, what are you hearing? Are people intimidated by the word philanthropy? Should it be generosity? Like, what do you see people out there? What are they thinking?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on is, Scott, the way that you talked about it, where over the past 20 years, there's causes, like your cause, that are doing the hard work, and the younger generation is very attracted to causes like this. And just on the corporation side, by aligning with causes like the Go campaign, it's a way to build engagement, drive loyalty, really pique the interest of that younger generation. But the downside is that these corporations, when they think of the word philanthropy, they see it as a nice to have. It's not a need to have. And if you go and tell them, hey, it's going to take you 4 to 12 months to integrate this charity into a checkout campaign, or there's a bunch of new regulations that are coming out, so you're going to have to spend all these new dollars and new technical integrations you have to do to make it really easy, they're going to say, hey, why would I go and do this? It's going to take me a lot of time. I can just go write a check. But what the younger generation is really looking for is to see that impact on a day-to-day basis. They want that ongoing update. They want to see, hey, the Go campaign just helped those kids in East LA. And then also in a month later, it's now helping these people overseas. And, that's an incredible story. The nonprofits are doing all this hard work. What our goal is just making giving really, really, really easy. So that starts from the actual donation side, but it doesn't end there. It continues to get these impact updates from the nonprofit. And so these companies can tell the story to their end users, to their end customers, and really create that nice cycle of giving. And, it's a win-win-win for everyone at the end of the day.
Am I incorrect to assume that with the corporate aspect, a big component of it is corporate matching?
I think corporate matching historically has been a really big component. Just think about it as like internal giving campaigns where you're an employee, you can go make a donation and the company will match it. In the recent years, what we've seen is a lot of new corporate type of activation. And what has changed, what we really specifically focus on is more customer giving experiences. So that can be things like running charitable sweepstakes for a nonprofit, the classic checkout campaign, donation matching, roundups, giving a percentage of purchase, embedding donations into a loyalty program, to even things like charitable NFTs. Employee giving is a great way to give back, but we really try to embed giving into more day-to-day actions.
I love that. Well, you mentioned charitable NFTs, so let's go to segment 2, which we're going to talk about innovation.